Hello, hello. Okay, we are kind of finishing operant conditioning today, and then we'll talk a little bit about it later. But so yesterday we finished with the difference between a reinforcement and a punishment, right? A reinforcement wants to increase behavior, so it happens again, and a punishment wants to decrease. And then just a reminder, positive does not mean good, negative does not mean bad, right? Positive means give, and negative means take away. So if you can do this in your mind or on a piece of paper, then good. All right. Ready, set, click. There we go. Okay. So then we got primary and secondary reinforcers, and just kind of a quick reminder, primary is something that is innate, that you want kind of as a baby, that maybe not, babies are a little bit lacking a lot of cognitive skills, maybe not that young, but something that is born in you that is innate. So like food or drink, you would do things if you're really hungry, like, yes, I will do this for food, I will do that again. Okay, and then condition is basically just saying that you learn this, right? That you were not born knowing that money was good, right? If you give money to a baby, they eat it or scrunch it up or something like that, or a gold star or an A in a class. I mean, really anything, most things that you want, you probably learned to want them. Okay? And just again, this is obvious stuff, but an immediate reinforcer is something that happens right after a behavior. So like if you get a 100 on a test and your parents don't give you any kind of even like good job, maybe a month later you're like, oh, hey, thanks. But immediate happens right after. So in that Skinner box, the rat, every time he presses the bar, he gets food, right? Every single time. Or right afterwards, right afterwards. Okay, where delayed is delayed. And that this is maybe more often, like a paycheck comes at the end of the week or the end of a month. I would say, I guess you get half and half here of immediate reinforcers in your life and delayed reinforcers. Okay? Okay, and then reinforcement schedules. So basically, yeah, all this section now is we're just talking about reinforcements, so not punishments. Yeah. Okay. So you've got this first one. Continuous reinforcements means that every single time you do the behavior that they want, you get a reward. So a gumball machine, every single time, right? You put the quarter in, it comes out. So that, just so you know, don't get that confused with immediate. Immediate does mean right afterwards, right? But you could get immediate reinforcement that's not continuous, so not every single time you get it. If that makes sense. Now someone might argue that the vending machine or the gumball machine's broken and then you don't get it, but whatever. That's not what we're talking about. So here in that middle column on that worksheet, learning does occur quickly, because if you get it every single time, you're gonna make that connection. Like, oh, I do this, that comes. I do this, that comes. A lot of times, like when you're teaching a kid or teaching someone a behavior that you want, I'm just thinking of my own kids, making their bed or cleaning the room or whatever it is. This often, we start with continuous reinforcement a lot, right? Because we want them to learn. But then after a while, you're not going to reward them every single time. You ain't got enough money for that or enough dum-dums or whatever. Okay, so then you go, but the other option here is partial, also known as intermittent reinforcement. And that's just kind of the opposite here, is saying you don't get rewarded every single time. You get rewarded some of the time. It could be after 3 responses. It could be after 6. It could be after a week. It could be after 2 weeks. So like, for example, I put this picture here, like a real estate agent, they might have to show like 20 houses before they get rewarded, before they get a closing. Or sometimes they may just have to show one and be like, boom, dream house. So yeah, it's different every time. All right, so how does this affect learning? It's going to be slower. They're not going to learn as quickly because they're not getting it every single time. But the good thing here is if I'm teaching my daughter, for example, to make her bed, which I haven't taught her that yet, then if I do it every single time, she's going to learn it. But then, like I said, I'm not going to reward her for the rest of her life when she's 30. I'm going to send her some candy. So I'm going to probably move here to partial, and she might complain or whatever. But this, where it says is, though it results in slower acquisition in the beginning, it shows greater resistance to extinction later on. Basically, it becomes more ingrained in them, and they're not going to drop that behavior. Does that make sense? Okay, so in general, partial works better in the long run, right? Most people aren't going to do continuous for every single thing. Okay, and then this is, these next 4 are going to be like schedules. So like how often do you get something, get a reward based on certain things, okay? All right, so this can get kind of confusing. So once you can write this somewhere on the side. Shoot, I thought I had a slide. Okay, here we go. You're going to get my pen and my good writing. Okay, where's my pen? Where are you? Okay, here we go. I want you to write this somewhere to the side. Fixed. Oh, this is going to take forever. Okay, this is the word fixed. It's beautiful. Fixed. It's not me. It's hard to write with, okay? Equals to set. It is not. It's a set amount. Oh gosh, this is painful. I'm sorry. Amount. Okay, I'm going to let you write the rest of that. Set amount. Okay, and then variable. I'm going to have to add a slide here one day. Variable. I think I usually write it on the board. Okay, you get the point here. Variable is the opposite of fixed. It means that it is changing. It's not a set number. It is changing. Yikes. Okay, got that? So fixed is kind of set versus variable means changing. And then on the other side, you thought it was done, but I'm not. Ratio, you know what a ratio is, but a ratio here means a number. An interval. You know what? It's a touch screen. Yeah. Okay. An interval is time. It's still not much better, but it's faster. Okay, so ratio is a number, whereas interval is time. Okay, in your mind, you're like, what the heck does this mean? All right, so let's move on and you'll see. Okay, so you got that. Okay, so first schedule you can have is a fixed ratio. So I go back here. Fixed means a set. Ratio means a number, so set number. So set number. They're going to get rewarded after a set number of behaviors. Okay, so here, there's your fancy thing. Reinforces a response only of a specified number of responses. So you could write, they get rewarded after a set number. So this is commission workers. You sell 3 cars, you get paid. All right, you make 5 teddy bears, boom, you get paid. It's great in some ways because you know what you need to do, but at the same time it's bad in a lot of ways because like for me as a teacher, if I got paid after 10 people passed the AP exam versus just, hey, be a good teacher and you get a salary, it's very different. Okay, so fixed ratio is a set number. Okay, how it affects learning in the middle. Okay, well, basically it's kind of they like to keep working. They want to keep doing that behavior. So right when they get rewarded, so let's say they made 3 teddy bears, boom, they want to start working again. Boom, they want to start working again. So that's the positive there. All right, how it affects learning. So next is variable ratio. Do you remember what variable means? It's not fixed, it's not set, it's changing. So a changing amount, okay? So you get your fancy definition, reinforces a response after an unpredictable number of responses. Okay, so after a changing amount. All right, so this is, I put my examples up here, fishing. So you're fishing, sometimes you cast it one time, you get a fish. Right, that's one behavior, right? Sometimes you have to cast it 10 times. Sometimes it's 20. Sometimes you're out there the whole day and you don't get rewarded in that way. So it's changing amount of times you do it. Slot machines are exact same way. Sometimes you pull it 3 times. Sometimes you don't get it all day. Sometimes you get it after 1 time. But it is changing amount of attempts. Okay, how does it affect learning? It leads to addiction because it's so changing, and because sometimes you do get rewarded, like for example gambling. It's so unpredictable that you don't know when, so it's kind of like an adrenaline rush of when you're going to get rewarded. So right there it says this is hard to extinguish because of the unpredictability. All right. I would say I do this as a parent a lot. For example, one thing we're trying to teach our girls is, they say obey right away. Like if we tell you to do something and we want you to do it right then. It sounds like we're like crazy people in our house, but we don't give many orders. But for example, stop hitting your sister. Okay, obey right away. Anyway, sometimes every so often she obeys right away. It's like, hey, you did an awesome job. We're going to go get M&M or whatever it is. And it's not every time. And it's sometimes she does it, sometimes she doesn't do it, that kind of thing. All right. So those are both ratio, so based on a number. These are all based on time here. So if it's a fixed interval, a set amount of time, right? That's what fixed interval. So you get rewarded after a set amount of time happens. I do not like this mailman one here, unless your mailman it shouldn't go here, I don't think. I need to fix that. But does your mailman come at the same time every day? No, mine actually did kind of, I remember growing up, it was like 3 o'clock. So maybe that one was fixed. But better one is baking. You put something in the oven, and it says on the instructions 25 minutes, boom, take them out. So you get rewarded after a set amount of time. However, this is how it affects learning. It says this produces a choppy start-stop pattern, because let's say you get rewarded after 20 minutes, okay, and then you're not going to get rewarded again until another 20 minutes. You're probably not going to do that behavior again until 20 minutes, until the time's towards the end. So that's what that means. So that's fixed amount of time. Then variable would be a changing amount of time. So you get reinforced after sometimes 20 minutes, sometimes an hour, sometimes a week, sometimes a day. It changes every time. But this isn't like the lottery where it's actual behaviors, right? Casting, that's an action. This is after time. Okay, so the perfect one here is like a cell phone. I'm sure we're all guilty of it. Let's say you text somebody and you don't have an Apple Watch, and you're waiting. It's like an important response. What do we do? Like tap the screen, right? Have they responded yet? No. Have they responded yet? No. It's kind of addictive there too, right? That variable side is kind of addictive. And Instagram, if you post something and you're waiting for likes, right? You go and you check it. Oh, I got a couple. I'm going to check again after 10 minutes. Oh, I got a couple more, right? So the positive and the negative here says it produces a slow, steady response, kind of similar to that addictive thing, right? That you're constantly checking because you don't know when it's going to come. Sound good? So here's a little chart. This is just saying kind of like based on how much time and how much response is. Basically, when you see ratio, it takes less time because it's all about how many efforts they do, right? How many behaviors they do. Whereas the interval ones is all literally about time. So we'll learn the other stuff. You're going to get a little worksheet, see if you can figure out, there's a couple examples. Is it fixed ratio? Is it variable ratio? Is it fixed interval? Is it variable interval? And that's it. Alrighty. Have a great weekend.